Hi there, my name's Michael Clift. I'm marching across America to end veterans homelessness and to participate in any and all local community efforts to help reduce this problem in our various cities and towns across the United States. My partner James and I have decided to carry a flag. It's a Veterans for Peace flag, an organization that started in 1985, ironically the year I joined the military when I was 17. I wish a member of Veterans for Peace had gotten to me before the military recruiter with the cool car and the 12-pack, suckering a 17-year-old kid into signing his name on a line. So what we're doing as Veterans for Peace nomads is trying to create a network, a human network, between the various chapters, organizations, and communities across America to unite to end veterans homelessness. I feel that if we can end veterans homelessness, we can use those models to reduce homelessness, poverty, and racism in our country. I started this journey in 2011 when the Occupy encampment started across America, and I was kind of shocked at the number of homeless veterans coming into our encampments. They have valuable skill sets, valuable life experience, and we decided to start Occupy Veterans San Francisco as a way for veterans to connect with one another and reintegrate into the community through grassroots political organizing. James is an accomplished videographer, and he has graced me with his services for over 300 miles now. James, you want to talk a little bit about how our march from San Francisco to Oxnard has been going?
Sure. The march has been very interesting. We've had some ups and downs. There's been communities like Oxnard that have been very open-handed and open-hearted, very welcoming, and whether it's a local that lives in a house or a local that lives out here like we do, especially places like Oxnard, have been very informative to where to go to get food, good places maybe to sleep or something. And then of course there's those other towns which they will remain nameless at this time, that have been very cold-shouldered and very, to me it put me off from the city. I wouldn't want to live there around those kinds of places. Oxnard though, I could live here, possibly. It's a great community. We've had a lot of difficulties with having the funding to travel, which we make our way along through spanging, asking for donations, and a lot of people have been very helpful. Yeah.
I've found one of the interesting things, we got into Oxnard yesterday to meet up with elements of Occupy Oxnard, who are a very friendly bunch. They've been doing great work out here, promoting students pursuing higher education and making public access television accessible to the people. And we're here at Plaza Park, where they have a really neat veterans memorial, one of the nicer small town memorials. We'll get into a town and we will go first to the Veterans Memorial and pay our respects and honor those who came before us. You know, when I got out of the military, I just wanted to put it behind me, and the next 27 years was spent ignoring the decay around me while I tried to make myself comfortable. That mainstream lifestyle for me was not sustainable. After my divorce and some personal traumas led me to reassess my life, I decided that I wasn't going to ignore people anymore. Even though I'm a tattooist and a mentor to a lot of folks, I still was not engaging in my community. I was rolling up my window, I was walking by guys on the street, and when I became homeless, actually by choice, I felt a sort of spiritual reconnection with all these homeless veterans who I could have served with. It could have been the man or woman that saved my ass. And I just thought it was a shame that in the wealthiest nation on the earth that spends $700 billion a year on the Pentagon and making war, and a small fraction of that could rescue our nation from every social injustice we're experiencing. Crumbling infrastructure, the privatization of our common space, the criminality that's running through the financial sectors and the consumer market. I felt that if I could politicize, organize, and mobilize veterans, that we would have a voice that had not been heard since Vietnam, since clearly this country has not learned the lessons from the Southeast conflicts. And if we did learn those lessons, then we wouldn't be in the Middle East right now. However, the establishment learned its lesson very well. They have tailored their propaganda and social conditioning into a state whereby if you don't support the war, George Bush's wars, Desert Storm, Desert Shield, if you don't support the war, it sort of metastasizes a type of apathy where you don't care about the veterans because the veterans were a part of something you disagreed with. In Vietnam, the entire country was united against the war, and we were successful through heroes like Scott Camille and Ron Kovic and Daniel Ellsberg to end that war and to change policy. That was the lesson the establishment learned, not to let these movements grow beyond certain key individuals that they can imprison or assassinate. I honor Scott Camille's service to the United States after he got out of Vietnam. Clearly, he knew what he was doing was wrong, and indeed, the man was instrumental in the Vietnam Veterans Against the War, Veterans for Peace. God bless that organization. James and I are traveling around the country, just to reiterate, to try to encourage veterans that they can do something with the rest of their lives other than just blowing the benefits checks, which are getting smaller every year. Thanks, Pentagon. And we will not be silenced. We march for those who can't march. We
speak for those that can't or won't speak for themselves. There's been people that they have told me that go forth and do what you're doing. You're doing a great job. Proud of you, but I have to stay behind the wall, behind the curtain, so that I can't risk that. Is their position. They have families, they have government jobs possibly.
Yep.
And a variety of people have just said, we were really proud of you for doing what you're doing. I wish I could be there with you, but I cannot. But we encourage you to continue doing what you're doing.
Yeah, and that type of encouragement is very motivational, and it, a lot of folks question, oh, gee, man, you live outside, it must be miserable. Not really.
Sometimes, sometimes it's a little, wet and rainy, and it is slightly miserable, but you were saying?
Oh, I'm just saying that as veterans, we're used to crappier conditions than being homeless in California. I mean, all I need to do, whenever I think I have it tough, I think of the guy who's had it tougher. And when I think it can't get any worse, it gets better. And when I think it can't get any better, it gets better. So maintaining a positive attitude is something that we want to encourage, particularly in this generation of the millennial soldier, the young man or woman who's coming back from these senseless wars in the Middle East and Southeast Asia. There are conflicts going on everywhere, in Africa, all around the world, in America, and we could just go on and on about these issues, because the bottom line is that America has worked very hard to build a war culture, a culture of money and greed and corruption, and that is boiled down to when they can't make war abroad, they make it at home by criminalizing the homeless, by criminalizing people of color, by marginalizing all of us who are below the economic status quo of what is generally considered a successful life. I consider, and I think the people I choose to ally myself with consider success an ongoing process of living joy. It's not a point where you say, okay, I'm successful, and then you struggle to maintain that level of success. It's simply being able to rejoice in the beauty of our planet, the beauty of our fellow humans and our little comrades, the animals. And I didn't come home until I became homeless, quite frankly.
You know, real quick, one of the things that I like about your approach to things is very positive and upbeat, and that was one of the reasons why I chose to come with you on this. And not only that, but because of the mission that you had chosen this flag as a birthday present for Scott, Camille, and
we have a guest coming today. The Vice President of Chapter 112, Oxnard, was going to be meeting us here to sign the flag. So we like that. Some of the chapters are dormant. Some of the chapters are too busy for a little upstart chapter like our Nomads. But the Nomad chapter is designed to give veterans an outlet for participating. Not every veteran wants to pay $40 a month to join something. Not every veteran wants to join anything. But the bottom, I guess you could say the bottom reason that I want to start Veterans for Peace Nomad chapters is that wherever there is not a Veterans for Peace chapter, the Nomads can be there. If you're not at that Christmas parade, I'll be at the Christmas parade. If you're not at the VA painting a mural with the guys, I'll be at the VA painting a mural with the guys. If you're not at the local shelter representing veterans, helping veterans, I'm that veteran helping veterans. And James and I are just two people, but we have the power and the love of thousands behind us. So we just want to encourage anyone who's watching this broadcast to reach out to veterans. Take a simple experiment on your way to or from work if you happen to walk. Ask 10 homeless people whether or not they served. You'll be surprised at how many of these broken people were once proud soldiers for this country that I think has turned its back on the veteran because they say they can't afford it, and that's the biggest lie they've ever perpetrated. And children have been wonderful to us. You remember the little kid last night? He comes up, he gave us like 11 cents in pennies. He's like, "Merry Christmas, guys." That's what I'm living for.
You know, Mike, we could go on dialoguing all day on these kinds of things, the positive influences we see in towns such as Oxnard and all up and down the West Coast here in California. There are those cities that welcome you in, and the children are with their parents, and the parents give them $5 and tell them, "Go give that to that man sitting over there." It's very emotional sometimes when they get up close and they talk to you, and they're these little people that are growing up into this world. And one of the things that you say is, it's for the little ones, it's for the children, the next generation. And that always gets me right here, is because I have a son who I haven't seen in some time, but it's for him why I do this, and all the others, the future generations. We can't continue going on destroying, as humans, going on and destroying the planet and hoarding money for what? What is our accomplishment there? He who dies with the most wins. He who kills the most wins. I mean, I don't see it that way. I see if we can make the change. I grew up watching Star Trek, and to better humanity and propel us forward, working together without monetary needs. Everything is provided for you, medical, you're sleeping, you're healthy because everything's taken care of. You have your food, your family, shelter.
And this is our epic voyage into the unknown. I mean, I've seen and learned more about other countries than I do about my own nation, and I just want to salvage my good feelings about America. It's like we've been coming up with these different slogans lately. The bigger the city, the smaller the heart. The smaller the town, the bigger the heart. You know, it's these small immigrant communities, farming communities, communities of color that have actually been kinder to us than big fancy pants towns like beep and beep. Don't get me wrong, there's nice buildings and stuff to look at, but they're choking the planet and they're choking the life out of us, and I'm not going down without a struggle. And I just want to thank you for taking the time to speak with us, and I just want to keep encouraging Oxnard to get involved with their community and liaison with Ventura. It's a region, and we believe in bioregionalism. We believe in sustainability. We think that when cities cooperate and they're not competing for services or funding, when they're not amping up the weaponized cops, the cops here have been wonderful. We haven't really seen any heavy police brutality since San Francisco.
I guess probably one of the last things I would say is, if you're not involved, get involved, pay attention. We've got a variety of issues that came up from the Occupy movement, including Monsanto, the creator of Agent Orange, genetic modification, GMOs in the food, fluoride in the water, chemtrails in the air, and people will try to refute it, but the evidence is there. Last but not least, there's a new warning cry out for help. If you're out there on the streets and you need somebody to witness what's going on, instead of yelling fire or rape or police, you yell cameras up, cameras up.
The whole world is watching.
Yeah, and I think that's something that has sprung out from the Occupy movement, where people are starting to realize that when you hear that, multiple people along the street will pick out their camera and start video recording. Now, mind you, when you record, turn your camera phone sideways. You get a better image. So that would be the last thing that I have. Last thing I have to say on that is peace, love, and solidarity to all those out there fighting the good fight. We love you.
This is Michael Clift. I'm with Joe. He is the president of the Oxnard Ventura Chapter 112 of Veterans for Peace, and he was able to come down and share some of his time with us and talk to us a little bit about some of the issues that are facing our community as veterans and how we can participate in our local communities. Joe, I was interested in what type of role you felt veterans can play when they get out of the service. I believe our service to our nation doesn't end after 4 years or after 20 years. I think that veterans still have an important role in America politically, and I think Veterans for Peace has been one of those movements that can help provide a political base for veterans' voices. What are some of your thoughts and impressions on that? And when did you join for Veterans for Peace?
All right, are you able to pick this up on a
it's a good
sound level? Okay, well, my name is Joe Azevedo. I'm the local chapter, Ventura County chapter, Veterans for Peace, number 112. And I joined Veterans for Peace quite a number of years ago, maybe 5 or 6. I can't remember the exact date. But I'm also a member of a couple of other veterans organizations that I try to tie to Veterans for Peace in all of our efforts outreaching into the community. I'm a member of the Disabled American Veterans, local chapter 24, and I'm also a member of the Native American Veterans Association, NAVA. Our website, our Veterans for Peace local chapter website is www.vfpvc.org, and I would recommend anybody that can remember that. It's a nice short limerick, poetic sort of, vfpvc.org, easy to remember. But our concerns with Veterans for Peace has morphed into being a concern for all returning young vets. We try to outreach to Iraqi vets, Afghanistan vets, and all those that are coming back. more or less with issues, thinking about what they want to do now that they're back. Of course, they have their priorities, personal, and otherwise, that they need housing, they need educational assistance, they need counseling, if they suffered any TBI, any PTSD. And what is not talked about, of course, right from the beginning of the conflicts in Iraq is something called, and little mentioned, depleted uranium poisoning. And a lot of these young fellas don't realize that they were in an area highly contaminated with our weapons use of depleted uranium. And unless they come back and make the efforts with the Veterans Administration, just like the Vietnam veterans came back and made issues with Agent Orange poisoning, we have something that is longer lasting and just as deadly, and for generations to come, because depleted uranium, because radiation affects the DNA of these young men, and they don't realize it. So in their interaction with their family, with their children, with their spouses or whatever, this radioactive isotope or whatever it is that is ingested through their lungs, through their just being around, through their skin, whatever, it's altering their genetic makeup. And as we have found in the past, the children being born in Iraq are being born deformed, stillbirths, all kinds of abnormalities that our media nationwide is not addressing, is not even speaking about. So we like to get the word out to these young men coming back that, before anything else, get yourself checked out. If you were over there, if you were in a dust storm, or if you were drinking the water, whatever, get yourself checked out with the VA. Start that conversation with your medical doctors and all that. I can only speak as an individual member of the local chapter that we are really concerned with peace as an option, peace as a way of life for us to continue post all these wars, which so far are unending, and who knows how long they will continue. We do have a national website, veteransforpeace.org, that anybody can go to and find out what the national organization is, who leads us and okays us to do whatever we're doing. But we do have 5 primary purposes or goals, the first of which I have really taken to heart, and that is to raise public awareness on the true costs of war. The true costs of war, which are so many that, I can't even begin to inform anybody, but we have outreached to whoever we can, wherever we can, and we have some members that are able to go and talk with the students of various high schools. We have had the support of a couple of peace groups in the various high schools. We did have a group of peaceful students, peace activist students in Ventura High a few years ago, Ventura High School. We had a club formed. The students formed this club. We didn't have anything to do with it, but they formed a chapter of Piecers in Rio Mesa High School. And there are several. Santa Paula High School has a peace group that is known as SESPE, SESPE, and they're concerned with the environment, which is also one of our concerns. And peace is foremost in their minds, and we appreciate, all the students that we get. And I appreciate the local media coming out and, being able to edit this whole thing down to something that will be palatable to the public, the local public, and then be translated to the Spanish-speaking members of the community of Oxnard and Ventura. And that's, I think, about it for me, unless you have something else that I've kind of touched on or jogged your memory in speaking to or asking me about.
Well, Joe, to touch on the students, the interaction with getting veterans to speak to students. We were talking to one gentleman the other day, a kid, and he had mentioned that at their high school they had VFP come out and do a couple talks in the quad just to kind of countermeasure the recruiters that have been trolling the campuses. And this high school was actually successful in getting the recruiters. They prohibited them from coming onto campus, and it's like I said, VFP 1985, I wish they'd got to me before the Army recruiter, because my life would have been a lot different. I wouldn't have had to struggle the past 27 years with trying to find my civilian brain, and I don't know, my service record was rather unremarkable, but I understand you're a Marine and you were in a pretty heavy time in that shifting point from Korea to Vietnam. And I don't want to get too personal, Joe, but what motivated you as a Native American Indian, a brave, to join the military, the U.S. military, the federal government that decimated the First Nation and committed? I mean, it would seem to me I wouldn't have done that. I would have been like staying on the reservation, working my beads and taking care of my granny.
Yeah.
What kind of motivated you at that time to join the military, to serve your country?
Well, I can only say for myself what motivated me was that I was at 18 years old, looking forward to going to college, finding a path for my life, a way to continue, to be prosperous instead of relying on my family to continue to support me. And I had, not too many options. I have interacted with a lot of Native vets in my association with Native American Veterans Association, and we all pretty much felt the need to save our land. Now, if you are able to read my shirt, besides having Free Bradley Manning stickers on it, I had this made. It says, if you want to read it,
if you think you can trust the government, just ask any Indian. It's Indian, I like that.
That's more or less computer talk, short shorthand. So I get a lot of response from natives that, they all have in their family veterans. And veterans have joined, for many years. They've joined, ever since, the first wars. But we were also involved in the Indian Wars. And so we know, who we are fighting for, and who we fought for is to save our land, our families, all of us that have concerns with the 7 generations that came before us, that put us where we are here today, that allow us to be here, and the 7 generations into the future. So that is actually what prompted me to join the Marine Corps at an early age. And of course, as soon as I stepped off the bus at the Marine Corps Recruit Depot in San Diego, I knew I had made a big mistake. Going through boot camp further enlightened me as to how big a mistake I made. But once you sign on to that line, on that dotted line, you can see that your life is not your own. Like my drill instructor made it real clear to me in the very beginning when he sat down and talked to us. He says, "Your ass is grass and I'm the lawnmower." So with that attitude, it was reinforced in my mind that I had nothing coming, that I had gone beyond any kind of love of country, love of myself, any patriotism, what people would call patriotism, that I was in deep trouble. But I made it through, and I got out and tried to find a job, and did so, and raised a family, and did so, and then I started seeing, what was happening all over the world with the government that, tells you, you got to fight for the freedom you have. Fortunately, I didn't die for the freedom like over 4,000 young men did in Iraq, and countless, they don't keep track accurate enough to suit me of all those that we've lost in both conflicts that are recognized by the media, namely Iraq and Afghanistan. I don't know how many people have been lost in Yemen, in Somalia, in Sudan, in you name it,
Central America.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole
one
nother
they like
thing.
sweeping under the rug too.
Yes,
They
absolutely.
say that the 15 years between Vietnam and Desert Storm was 15 years of American peace, the Cold War. There is no peace anywhere as long as U.S. militarism is creating these hellish footprints across the world. Did you experience any overt racism when you were in basic training? It was the 50s, right?
Yeah, no. There wasn't any overt racism.
Yeah.
You can't really reach into the minds of the people that are deeply racist. We would get, subtle things, especially when we went out on liberty and got drunk.
Yeah.
Then you'd find out what side the bread is buttered on. But, hang on, here's the siren.
Heroes. I asked that question about racism because when I was in boot camp, they made it very clear that we were all the same. We were all green.
Yeah.
And there was none of this, was going to be none of this racial division or this Jew Catholic stuff. You know, you're all equally equipment. You have to be high functioning and unbreakable. But the first thing they do is try to break you down. And I'm interested in a lot in the cultural differences that we experienced. The America of 1959, a recruit versus a recruit in 1985 versus a recruit after 9/11. It's not just that the society has changed, but the people are being changed too. So I don't know. I don't want to romanticize the past, but I grew up on Grandpa's knee, hearing about the Hun and the Jap and all this kind of stuff, and I just didn't know how much the other was being painted as the enemy in 1950 versus today.
Yeah.
And
well, I only know what I was told, what I got from, mass media exposure, but I used to see, all those John Wayne movies, and why were the Indians always getting shot, So I didn't like to play cowboys and Indians, and so, at an early age I learned the meaning of empire, and when I included that dialogue in with this government's policies, I realized that we are an empire seeking total domination of the entire planet through our military.
Absolutely.
And, the voices that I've run into in the peace movement speak more to my heart today than those that want me to go out and kill or maim or torture another human being, because we weren't told that, especially at the tender age of 18 and 19. And I like to tell the young people, when we are able to speak to them, that something happens to you when you take another human being's life.
Michael Clift with Occupy Veterans San Francisco. If you're interested in following our journey or making a donation that we can pay forward to other veterans, all our information, daily postings and blogs can be found at occupyveteranssanfrancisco.weebly.com, and it's fairly entertaining. We have another website.
My website's a little more generalized. It is a media site, independent citizenmedia.weebly.com, and the support link on that page goes to the same support link for online donations. And I want to thank everybody for watching. Peace, love, and solidarity.